Hello everyone, welcome to Big Data Thoughts. Last time we had seen a video on reliability. So we had talked about what are the factors which are critical for any data application, and there were three factors. Out of that, we spoke about reliability, and today we are going to talk everything about scalability. What it is, how do we measure it, what should we keep in mind, what are the types of scalability. All of this we are going to discuss in today's video. So let's get started. So let's just recap a bit about what we had discussed and then we will get started about scalability. So data applications. Data applications are prevalent in any industry, and we can see many use cases of building data platforms or doing analytics after collecting huge amounts of data from disparate sources. So it's a very common use case, but most of the time it is more about the volume of data rather than processing or having huge requirement of having high processing power or CPU power. Most of the time today it is about huge amount of data. So there are data applications that we build, or we build data platforms to perform various kinds of analytics. So when we talk about data applications, three major things are there that have to be kept in mind: reliability, scalability, and maintainability. There are many other factors, but we are discussing about these three. We discussed about reliability in detail in the last videos, and today we are going to discuss about scalability. So what is scalability? What does it mean when I say that a system has to be scalable? So first of all, why at all would we talk about scalability? So any system that we design, we want it to be reliable. We will design a system today which is reliable, but can we guarantee that that system is reliable even after 5 years, 10 years, or in future any time? Now, why are we even doubting that our system will be reliable in future is because there are two factors very important which change with time. And this happens with every system. One of them is data volume, the other is the number of users. So for example, if we take a very common use case or a common example, let's say Amazon website. We all go and shop on Amazon. Amazon, when they designed their system, they would have designed initially thinking about X number of users or X amount of data uh, getting displayed or number of items getting displayed there. But with time, the data volume increases because there will be many vendors displaying their products on Amazon, so they have to list those products. There will be number of transactions that are happening, number of operations like listing of the product, selection, making the payment, etc. Number of users also kept on increasing by time. Even if we look at today's situation, there are users who are constantly buying things from Amazon, but there are certain periods of time in the year when the load is like too much in whether it is festivals or it is maybe this big sale that Amazon offers. At those times the volume of data will increase, number of transactions will increase, number of users will increase. So these are the things that are dynamic and they keep changing with time or for a particular period. So it is very necessary for a system to think about that if it is reliable, the system is reliable today and it is giving a certain performance, will it give the same performance if the load increases, if the volume increases, if the number of user increases? That is when we need to think about scaling the system so that our system performance remains the same. So in short, scalability means a system's ability to cope up with increased load. That load can be in terms of transactions, users, data, anything. But whenever the system sees an increase in load, it should be able to adapt to that. That is what we mean by scalability. Now, how do we measure scalability? This is important to understand. How do we say that our system is scalable? First is throughput. How do we measure scalability, or how do we measure our system is actually scalable? Is by looking at certain things like throughput. throughput means the number of transactions it or request it can handle per second. So if today my system can handle the number of requests which is 1000, tomorrow if my system becomes very popular and there are like 10,000 users or 1 million users, my throughput may be 1 million transactions per second. Is my system able to survive in that condition? Is it scalable from that 1000 to 1 million? That we have to keep in mind. So one dimension to keep in mind is throughput. Second is the total time taken, which means how much time it is taking from the request getting generated to the response coming back to the user. What is the total time? Now that total time can have many different components. For example, we will talk specifically about two things: latency and response time. Many a time people get confused and use these two words interchangeably, but that's not right, because latency is what? Latency means if I today as a from the client I make a request, for that request to come by response to come back to me, there may be a time that is taken by that request when it is in the queue. It has not even been accepted for the system to do some operation. So that's the latency part. When the request has not been served, it is still queued. That is the latency. But response time means when the request has been sent, whether it is queued or it gets the required resources to operate, and then the whole operation happens and the request comes back. This also includes any kind of network lag, any kind of time the request spends in the queue to get the resources, etc. So response time is the total time taken from request generation to getting back the request to the client. But latency is only when the request is queued and not even accepted for processing. So that's the difference between the two. These factors will determine how performant your system is, and in turn you need to think how you will scale the system so that all of these factors are taken care of and the performance of the system remains the same. Also, there are certain SLAs or SLOs, service level agreements or service level objectives, which means whenever I design a system, there will be a service level agreement that if I make a request, the response should come back to me in 2 seconds, 2 milliseconds, or 2 minutes, whatever it is. That is a agreed upon time with the business. So that has to be maintained. If my system's current load is 1000 users and my SLA is 2 milliseconds, even if my number of users becomes 1 million, I need to maintain that SLA and keep it at 2 milliseconds. So that's the way I should think when I'm scaling my system. What are the points that we should really consider when we are thinking about scaling? So there are majorly three things that we'll talk about. One is head of the line blocking, second load testing, and third queuing time. So we'll get to head of the line in the next slide and I'll explain with a diagram. But essentially load testing. So any system that we designed, if we want it to be performance efficient, if we want it to scale, we need to do a thorough load testing. So there are multiple tools in the market which will help us to do load testing of our system. We should definitely do a thorough load testing to see if the number of users per second increases, if my load increases, how my system is performing. We should keep in mind what will be the queuing time if the number of users or number of requests increase. Queuing time is the time when the request is waiting in the queue to be served. As I mentioned earlier, we cannot run all requests in parallel, so there will be definitely queuing time. How do we reduce that queuing time is what we have to think when we are scaling the system. We have to scale the system in such a way that the queuing time is minimum. If we have a single server that is serving the request, no matter how vertically we scale the server, we'll talk about vertical and horizontal scaling, but no matter how much resources we give to that server, if the number of users or transactions increase beyond a certain limit, the queuing time has to come into account. So while designing the system, we need to keep in mind about the load and the queuing time. Now coming on to the head of the line blocking. If you see this example, there is a end user who is accessing a web application. Now there may be multiple backend requests which are getting fired when the user actually requests something. So the client is requesting or clicking on a button and doing some operation, but in the backend there may be like tons of processes that are running. Now even though let's say those processes are running in parallel, the slowest process there is going to hold the system back. Okay, because when we look at the request response cycle, the request is going, and if it is a synchronous kind of an operation, the request will go, the response will come back. So the user is waiting for that response to come back, and if there is any one of the process which is slow, so if we see here, the slowest process is this one, which takes 487 milliseconds. So even though one request is finishing in 76 milliseconds, the user is actually waiting for 487 milliseconds plus any kind of network delays and rendering of the response to the UI. So this is called head of the line backlog, which means one of the process which is taking maximum time is holding back the others. So while designing or developing the application, we need to keep in mind that how performance efficient each of our processes are. Similarly, now let's talk about the different types of scaling. So what are the types of scaling? Vertical and horizontal. Vertical scaling. What is vertical scaling? Initially, back in the days when we did not have distributed systems, we were doing vertical scaling, which means if there is a single server or node that is serving the request, it has X amount of memory and X amount of storage. When we want to serve more users, more transactions, or essentially our load increases, we had to beef up that machine, increase the CPU, increase the storage. So we are vertically scaling, we are going on adding resources to that machine. But it has a limitation. You can only scale up to a certain point, or you can only scale up as per the hardware, whatever the hardware supports. So it cannot indefinitely keep scaling. So vertical scaling had its own limitation about having a higher ceiling after which it cannot scale. So then people started moving to distributed systems, and in different videos I have talked in detail about distributed system architecture or shared nothing architecture. Essentially a distributed architecture is something where you have multiple nodes who are sharing nothing between them. Those are independent of each other and they form a cluster. So you may have, like in case of Hadoop, you may have one master and multiple slaves, right? So you have the flexibility here to scale the system horizontally. If you want to increase the system's power, you want to scale it, you can add further nodes. If the cluster today is of 100 nodes, you can increase it and make it 150, 200 based on your need. It's much easier than vertical scaling. Though horizontal scaling may have disadvantages, like it is a more complex system than a vertical system. A vertical system or a single system, if it exists, it is very easy to maintain that. But when we talk about distributed systems, who ideally are a shared nothing system, but still they are complex, because now you have too many machines to distribute your load to and then manage and maintain them. But it gives you the flexibility to elastically scale. And with the advent of cloud, it is all the more easy because you don't have to manually go and add a node or something to horizontally scale. You can have in any cloud provider, whether AWS, Azure or Google, they all provide elastic scaling, which is one of the very big benefits of cloud. You can have auto scaling enabled and define certain thresholds saying that after this threshold, please increase my cluster by X amount. So that is very much possible. Most of the time these days we will see that we have distributed systems because we have huge amount of data, and we use horizontal scaling. Now another thing that we should keep in mind is when we are talking about horizontal scaling, it is easier to scale, but it comes with its own limitation, as well as the problem is that in horizontal scaling, if my application is stateless, it is much easier to design it in a distributed fashion. But if it is a stateful application, then the complexity increases of maintaining that state. So these are some of the nuances that we should keep in mind even when we are making a distributed system and a system which is capable of scaling horizontally. But all in all, these are the two broad categories of scaling. So today we discussed about what scaling is, what to keep in mind, what are the types. I hope this helps. In the next video, we are going to talk about maintainability, which is another important aspect of any kind of data intensive or data centric application. So thanks a lot guys for listening in. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel to get more interesting videos. Thank you so much.